It's not Romeo and Juliet.
And yeah,
It wasn't. I don't like Shakespeare. Anyways, the fact
they're
that my
different.
favorite story is associated with that idea.
I'm just obsessed with the earth opening, and she's like, "Bleh." Cheers.
Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're here with Jane and Mark over at Blue Box 29. Our theme today is Fated Lovers, but it is the beginning of our fourth and final week in February. This is not only the fourth and final week of February, but it is our final week of winter until December. So we will not be seeing any more of the shadow work in that transformation, soul myths in the darkness. We may still face them one day in the darkness, but
Right.
we're moving back into the earth reawakening after this week. But this week, the month of sacred bonds, the beloved and the binder, is week 4, love beyond life. In that very title itself, we know we're going to be talking about death in that. So like disclaimer of the whole week almost is there will be death and the loss of love, and speculations of that, through folklore and faith. But we're going to explore what happens.
Yeah.
What does happen to us? What's the point? Because if the point of being here is love, what's the point of loving? Like what is the point? And it has to lean into there's something beyond this.
Yes.
This can't be the point.
No.
But then again, it's
But there's a solid
entirely the
point.
point.
Yeah.
It's entirely the point in that very fact.
Right.
Because what we do here matters for the bigger picture. And that's kind of cool to think that this is the bigger picture. And that helps me, like, on days where I question, like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Is that love goes beyond life,
Yeah.
and we get to see that all this week. And so while we say there's a disclaimer because death is coming, we also get to enjoy what that love left behind. So whether we are gone or our loved one is gone, or we are seeing someone else who's lost a loved one, we get to see how they touched people around them. That's like beautiful. And so today with the soulmates, our theme is fated lovers. So our little bit of our Romeos and Juliets across folklore starts today. So we're going to look at that through Punjabi, Persian, Chinese, and Greek folklore today for all brand new stories, brand new characters today. So really sit back and enjoy. We'll see you after this. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. Heer and Ranjha. In Punjabi legend, love is not gentle. It is destiny that refuses surrender. Ranjha, whose given name was Ditto, was the youngest son of a wealthy landowner. Unlike his brothers, he cared little for inheritance or ambition. He loved music. He wandered fields with his flute. His spirit was restless, drawn more to beauty than to possession. After conflict with his family, he left home and traveled until he reached a village of Heer. He saw her first by the river. Heer was not passive or timid. She was intelligent, sharp-tongued, strong. When Raja played his flute, something shifted in the air between them. The music was not performance, it was recognition. Their love did not grow slowly, it ignited. Ranjha took work tending Heer's family cattle so he could remain near her. In the fields and forests, they met in secrecy. Their bond deepened beyond flirtation and devotion. But Punjabi society was not kind to forbidden love. Heer's family discovered the affair. Honor, reputation, and alliances mattered more than affection. She was forced into marriage with another man. Ranjha was cast out. This is the first death. Separated from Heer, Ranjha did not return to comfort or revenge. He renounced the world. He became the Jogi, a wandering ascetic under the guidance of a spiritual master. His hair was matted, his body marked with ash. His flute fell silent. But he did not renounce love. He carried it like a hidden ember. Years passed. When Raja eventually returned to Heer's region as a holy man, disguised in spiritual austerity, she recognized him immediately. No costume could erase soul recognition. Their reunion was not youthful passion. It was ache matured into resolve. Still trapped in an unwanted marriage, declared openly that her heart belonged to Ranjha. Public scandal erupted. Families argued. Honor was invoked like weaponry. At last, under mounting pressure, a compromise emerged. Heer and Ranjha would be allowed to marry. The wedding was arranged. Hope returned. But fate twisted once more. On the eve of their union, Heer's uncle, enraged at the dishonor she brought upon the family, poisoned her food. She consumed it unknowingly. When Ranjha arrived, expecting celebration, he found her dying. He did not curse the heavens. He did not call for vengeance. He took the remaining poisoned food and consumed it himself. If she could not live, he would not remain. They died together. In Punjabi Sufi tradition, their love is not remembered as failure. It is remembered as ishq hakiki, love that reveals the divine. Their deaths are not mere tragedy. They are union. Heer and Ranjha are buried in the same tomb. Pilgrims still visit it. Their story, preserved in the 18th century poetic retelling by War Shah, continues to be sung. Unlike romantic tales that end in transformation into birds or trees, Heer and Ranjha remain human. Their transcendence lies not in metamorphosis, but in spiritual merging. The Sufi interpretation reframes their longing as metaphor for the soul's longing for God. Separation intensifies devotion. Social law cannot extinguish what is written in spirit. Ranjha's flute becomes symbol of calling. Heer becomes the answering echo. Even when forced apart by family, by marriage, by exile, by death, their bond remains intact. Their love transcends time because it refuses compromise. Heer does not accept safety over truth. Ranjha does not accept life without her. Their union is not sanctioned by society. It is sanctified by devotion. In Punjab, lovers invoke their names not as warning, but as blessing. They are remembered not for scandal. They are remembered for constancy. Some bonds endure not because they are protected, but because they are chosen again and again, even at cost. Heer and Ranjha do not grow old together. They become legend together. And in that legend, love does not end at the grave. It continues wherever their names are spoken. Story 2, Layla and Majnun. In the deserts of Arabia, love becomes madness. Qais al-Mulawa was a poet before he was a legend. When he fell in love with Layla, daughter of the neighboring tribe, his devotion was immediate and absolute. They met as children. Their affection deepened into something fierce and unhidden. He spoke her name in verses. He wrote of her eyes, her presence, the way her absence altered the air. People began to whisper. In tribal society, public love was dangerous. Layla's family feared scandal and dishonor. When Kay asked for her hand, he was refused. The refusal did not quiet him. It unmoored him. He wandered the desert reciting her name until people called him Majnun Layla, Layla's madman. His identity fused to his longing. He rejected food, society, comfort. He spoke poetry to animals and wind. Layla was married to another man, but marriage did not dissolve devotion. Separated by custom and command, Layla lived confined, her love guarded behind walls. Majnun roamed wild landscapes, clothed in dust and obsession. Their love did not culminate in secret meeting or dramatic rescue. It matured in absence. In many versions, they meet once more, briefly, but their reunion is restrained. They do not touch, they do not flee. Their love has moved beyond possession. It has become surrender. Majnun's madness is reinterpreted in Sufi tradition not as insanity, but as annihilation of ego. He becomes consumed not by Layla alone, but by the divine reflecting through her. Layla becomes symbol. Majnun becomes seeker. When Layla dies, Majnun goes to her grave. He weeps until he collapses beside it. He dies there, near, but not holding her. They are buried close to one another. Their union is not accomplished in life. It is accomplished in death and remembrance. Unlike Savitri, who brings her husband back from death, Layla and Majnun do not defeat fate. Unlike mountain lovers who become landscape, they remain human, fragile, finite. Yet their bond transcends time because it reshapes identity. Kays is no longer Kays. He is Majnun, defined by love. In Persian literature, particularly in the 12th century poetic retelling by Nizami Ganjavi, their story becomes allegory. Human longing mirrors spiritual longing. Layla represents divine beauty. Majnun represents the soul undone by its pursuit. Their separation does not diminish love. It intensifies it. Their tragedy does not weaken the story. It immortalizes it. Centuries later, their names are spoken together as one phrase, Layla and Majnun, not because they married, not because they lived peacefully, but because their devotion transcended circumstance. Some bonds endure not by surviving comfortability. They endure by burning so brightly that history cannot extinguish them. Story 3. The Butterfly Lovers. In ancient China, love was sometimes forced to disguise itself. Ju Yingtai was born into privilege, but not into freedom. As a young woman, she longed to study. Education was reserved for men, yet her mind refused confinement. So she did what love often does. She crossed boundaries. Dressed as a man, she traveled to Hangzhou to attend school. There she met Liang Shanbao, a gentle, earnest scholar. They studied together for 3 years. They walked the same roads. They shared meals. They spoke of poetry and duty. Liang never knew her secret, yet he loved her. Ju loved him too, though she could not confess it openly. When her family summoned her home, she invited Liang to visit and meet her sister, promising that he would understand. He arrived. He discovered the truth. The friend he loved was a woman he adored. But revelation came too late. Ju had already been promised in marriage to another man, chosen by her family for alliance and status. Liang's heart broke beneath the weight of social obligation. He fell ill and died, grief consuming him before the wedding could take place. On the day Ju was carried toward her arranged marriage, her bridal procession passed Liang's grave. Storm rose. Thunder split the sky. The grave cracked open. Ju stepped from her carriage and leapt inside. The earth closed. When the storm cleared, 2 butterflies rose from the grave and flew together into the air. In Chinese tradition, butterflies symbolize transformation, freedom, and the soul. Ju and Liang did not defeat arranged marriage. They did not overturn society. They transcended it. Unlike Savitri, who argues with death, or Layla and Majnun, who burn in longing, Ju and Liang become light. They are remembered not as rebels alone, but as spirits liberated. Their love is not preserved in stone or monument, but in metamorphosis. In later retellings, their story becomes one of China's great romantic tragedies, often called the Chinese Romeo and Juliet. Yet its core is strictly Chinese in its symbolism. Duty and desire collide. Family loyalty and personal love conflict. Transformation resolves what society cannot. The butterflies represent a bond that cannot be contained by human structure. They rise, they fly, they endure. Centuries later, their story is still performed in Chinese opera and literature. Their names remain paired, not because they married, not because they lived long, but because their souls were imagined as inseparable. Some bonds transcend time not by surviving circumstance, but by transforming beyond it. When love cannot live within the world, it becomes wind. Story 4, Meleager and Atalanta. In Greek myth, love sometimes begins in competition. Atalanta was not raised for marriage. Abandoned at birth and suckled by a she-bear, she grew into a huntress of unmatched skill. Swift-footed, sharp-eyed, devoted to Artemis, she vowed independence. She would not be owned. Meleager, prince of Caledon, first saw her during the Caledonian boar hunt, a legendary gathering of heroes summoned to slay a monstrous beast sent by Artemis. Atalanta struck first blood. Her arrow pierced the boar. Meleager delivered the final blow. But in his heart, he knew the honor was hers. Before assembled warriors, he awarded her the trophy. He defied tradition to honor her skill. It was love born of recognition. His uncles protested. They could not accept that a woman deserved glory. They seized the trophy from her. Meleager, enraged by their insult to Atalanta, killed them. This act set fate in motion. Long before his birth, the fates had told Meleager's mother that her son's life was bound to a piece of wood burning in the hearth. The wood burned fully, he would die. She extinguished it and hid it away. But when she learned that Meleager had killed her brothers, grief turned to vengeance. She retrieved the hidden brand and cast it into the fire. As the wood burned, Meleager's strength faded. He died not in battle, not by beast, but by destiny tied to flame. Atalanta did not fade into mythic silence. She mourned him. In some versions, she remained unwed for years. In others, she later marries under strict conditions, racing suitors and defeating them until finally, outmaneuvered by golden apples from Aphrodite. Meleager remains the first man who honored her as equal. Their bond is brief, but it is fated. Unlike lovers who die together by choice, Meleager and Atalanta are bound by prophecy and passion intertwined. His love elevates her publicly. Her presence alters his loyalty. Their story is not one of eternal reunion beyond death. It is one of recognition that reshapes destiny. Meleager chooses Atalanta over bloodline, over custom, over safety. In Greek myth, that choice has cost, yet their names endure together. Atalanta, the untamed huntress. Meleager, the prince who honored her. Some bonds transcend time not because they last long, but because they reveal who we were when we chose love over expectation. In that choice, fate becomes visible, and even brief love becomes legend. Hey everybody, welcome back in. Hope you enjoyed those stories. It was a little tough. A couple of those stories, both reading them and listening to them the second time, I teared up a little bit. Had to pause a couple times when I was reading, as you heard, because you saw the unedited version.
Right.
So I didn't have time to edit it yet, but man.
You really liked one of them, though.
I did, yeah. Audibly said, that was a good one. Yeah, the Persian one, the second one. That was the one that I was in tears, I think, majority of the time reading it.
Yeah?
The first story put me in the mood.
Yeah.
It put me in. And it's funny because it's like I set these up. So aren't you prepared? Yes, I'm prepared. But I'm asking for the raw, like as close to the original as possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting out of these. But that means that there's not as many happy stories as we'd like to see.
Right.
Because we as humans don't understand what happy is a lot of the time. That's why happiness is a choice. Because I can choose to be happy because I truly don't know what it encompasses other than my mindset saying I'm happy.
Yeah.
Right?
I can decide what happy is and then just be that. Like, to me, this is what happiness is. And then, okay, now I'm happy.
That's
cool.
the reality I'm going to accept.
Yeah.
Everything else isn't, no, it's not worth my time.
Exactly.
But this one, the soulmates, the theme of fated lovers, and our lesson is that some bonds transcend time. I just love these stories because I don't know, it's what you hear that love is supposed to be like. That's how I was raised, Maybe it was me as the youngest girl, my family. My parents had 4 girls, so lots of happily ever afters were being told. But you hope that you leave such a memory that history can't even erase you. In one way or another, that's something that a lot of us want. And it's not even everyone. It could be, I want that one person to remember me the rest of their life, And so I just think that very lesson of some bonds transcend time, they absolutely do. And that's the point. That's the point of love, is that it cannot be stopped on this playing field. It cannot be stopped from crossing into a brand new one, because we have no idea where it's going, so we have no control on how to keep it here. Because that person, when you're gone, the love that you had for me, it's going with you. Part of it stays, but not all of it. So where did it go?
Yeah.
Somewhere. So I just love that. And the daily thread is that some bonds feel older than memory. They recognize us before we recognize them. Love does not always promise comfort, but it often promises meaning. The connections that alter us most are rarely convenient. Whether through devotion, transformation, sacrifice, or choice, true union reshapes identity. What bond in your life feels written beyond time? And a little twist at the end of the daily thread today. Today was definitely more of a soft poetry than just hitting back into all the points, because these are all saying, what is it in your life? Which bond reflects these?
Yeah.
Because in all actuality, that's a thing. There is that appeal to fated lovers, but these were soulmates. These weren't just fated lovers. These were, their souls had recognized each other beyond this life, beyond whatever's happening here. And that's a huge distinction. But this first one, Heer and Ranjha, in this legend, love transcends social law and mortal life. They are remembered as souls united beyond death rather than lovers defeated by it. Ranjha began wandering the world under the guidance of a spiritual master. Years passed, they moved forward, and then they were finally allowed to marry. But here was in an unwanted marriage, right? But now the opportunity came. Time is finally on their side to be reconnected. They're being granted that. Somebody else doesn't like the way that their choice made them look, how their choice that had nothing to do with them made them get perceived.
Or what they assumed.
No, we're going to say it did bring dishonor on her family.
Okay.
That's the custom. That's the culture.
Okay.
During this time frame, she brought dishonor. And because of that, you are definitely not getting your happiness.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what the uncle thought. And so he killed her, poisoned her.
Yep.
So she wouldn't get her happiness. And it's kind of like, was it intentional? My beef is with her, both of them, but she's the one that will die. But she wasn't going to finish the meal herself. There was enough food for more than one person. Is that someone saying, was it worth it? Because if it was worth it, you'll go with her. Do you truly love each other beyond, or whatever it may be, just thinking.
Or you just, yeah, there is that aspect where it's, you maybe just don't need to eat at that much.
Right.
Like 1 or 2 bites, and you're just like, ugh. And he's like, well, there's 1 or 2 more bites.
Right.
Might as well finish that for her, because I'm going to. It's not.
Yeah, because it's that one out of all of them sounded the most like Romeo and Juliet to me. The other one, yeah, but no, not really at all, I think. But this one definitely did, of seeing what's right there in front of you and doing what is the best with what's there. What you're thinking, what you're feeling, you're doing what you believe is the only rational thing for you to do. There was no second guessing. There wasn't anything. It was just, okay, I'll follow you. And I think that's something we can take away from this story for myself, is that it's really sad, because this was obviously the one that put me in like the mood. But it's because it's kind of beautiful that he didn't care why, who, what, when, where, why she was gone. And it's just, you know what? I'm going to follow you through this very darkness that took you. I'm going to follow your steps to ensure that my soul will reconnect with yours. That's kind of beautiful. It wasn't something that he sat there and thought about or waited on. It was you're not getting that far ahead of me. And I do think that that's kind of beautiful to think about. I don't think that all stories should result in us saying you only love them if you kill yourself when they're gone. No, not at all. That's not what it is. But this was it. they finally caught their break and, "Oh, I'm not coming back now. I know what it feels like to know I'm gonna have you. Nothing is going to stop me this time."
Yes, because as long as I didn't have you, and then now is the time. It doesn't matter where that love is. It's
Yeah.
time.
And guess what? You know what? They can't touch us here anymore if we're both gone either. So I'll
Because
follow
they
you
left all the
into
love.
that unknown. And that's beautiful too, is that I'm going into something I know zero about. And we might have 100% faith. That's a whole different thing than, you know, I have factual evidence of what's going to happen. She's there, I'm there. That's all that mattered. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I will be. But if she's there, I'm going to find that person. And that's just like so cool that he was like, bet, bet. That's how all these stories felt to me today.
As you were saying that, I got the visualization of when I was in ceremony and I saw my sister. Like when the people were like, one more song, and the uh the very first song was the song that was I played at my sister's, funeral. And I was just like, what? That's you. And I just saw her. And as you were explaining that visualization came in, because it's like you will find the people that you need to meet, when you're on the other side. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, what's up?
Right.
You know,
And
thank you for everything you did. I appreciate
they
that.
can't be stopped anymore.
Mhm.
So those signs where we get those signs and we're like, whoa, like, was that them? Yeah, because they cannot be stopped. Nothing on this realm, in this world, can stop like, the love that God is allowing you to share and allowed us to have here. Nothing will stop that from showing. So there has to be something beyond, right?
Yeah.
Story two, Layla and Majnun's story, they weren't allowed to be together again, just like the other one in this life. They never got acknowledgement to be together in this life. She was wed to someone else, that separation, that custom, and then she died, and he went there and reunited with her beyond light. That's just crazy to think, like, because we don't live in a time that's like that here. We don't
Yeah.
live in a reality that people are being married off, because that was big in every single culture for a long time, is that especially the women didn't have a lot of say in who they married.
Yeah.
Royalty didn't have any say, regardless, male, female. But how many people, there was no love between them? None. How many people went to the grave with their loved one? Like all those people that went through those graveyards and were just found lying there, that were nobodies, no name, nothing. What if they were absolutely where they were supposed to be?
Yeah.
And that's just one of these stories, is that some bonds we meet here and that's it here. We met here, and hold out and remember me, because I'll be back, I'll be back for a sequel, but it won't be here. It's just sad that so much has just been lost all around the world in all these cultures. Like so much love has been lost. A lot has been gained too, but just sad when it feels like out of our control. When it is, this is our custom, this is our tradition, this is the way of our life, and there's purpose,
Yeah.
validation.
Very much so. I've been waiting to
100%.
say that. There's a purpose to it,
Yeah, and there's all of that
you know.
behind it, and
And
just
who are we to judge what that is?
it's just hard to have no control when it hurts so bad.
But that's the part of surrendering and then being in the flow and then understanding why does it hurt and accepting that hurt for what it truly is meant for, because it's meant to guide you in a certain way. And if you're fighting that, it's going to make it worse.
Right.
So be like, I don't want this to happen anymore, so I'm going to do it this way now. And then that leads you to exactly where you need to be.
Exactly. I love that. Sometimes it's out of our control, and sometimes it's absolutely in our control, and something just goes wrong. And we're left there with all of these plans that will not come true because one straw was taken out too soon. And then you're sitting there and it's like, whoo, it's like a total kick in the gut of just losing your breath and having it come all back in. But all that's coming in is the realization of, holy crap, I got to find a starting spot. Like, where do I even land? And that's difficult. But moving on to the third story, I love this story. The Butterfly Lovers from Chinese folklore is one of my favorite stories of all time, ever. It always gets me choked up. Like, it truly is one of my favorite folklore pieces, transformation. It's one of those things that made me acknowledge butterflies again.
Yeah.
You know, no longer being a kid and not trying to catch them or whatever, seeing them all the time. We just kind of maybe see them every once in a while and we're like, oh, cool, butterfly. But it made me acknowledge them again.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the idea of transformation and how their transition throughout their lives and how they do symbolize the soul. They're like, they weigh nothing. They move throughout the wind. They're like effortless yet fast. All this stuff, they're just beautiful. And that is a total reflection of the soul. And I think moths are like that too. I do think moths are beautiful. Obviously, there are some that are prettier than others, but they're just another sign of that. You know, we think that because they're dark, they're uglier, that they're not the soul, but that's just a different version of the soul.
Right.
You know, those are the same. And so it's really cool. It's not Romeo and Juliet.
And yeah,
It wasn't. I don't like Shakespeare anyways. The fact
there a
that my
different,
favorite story is associated with that idea.
but is there
It's
a different version though?
no, it's the idea of fated lovers themselves, right?
Mm.
So it's referred to as China's Romeo and Juliet because it's China's version, way older, right?
Yeah.
Way different interpretations of soulmates and love and endurance.
I'm just obsessed with the earth opening and she's like, bet,
And
like right where his grave
yep,
is, and she sees it open
on her way
to her
to
wedding.
her wedding, to her arranged marriage. And I loved that it said they didn't defeat arranged marriages, they didn't defeat customs, beat tradition, beat the hierarchy.
No.
They took themselves off the board.
Yeah.
I love that. It is the total okay.
Okay.
So it's just you got your chance. Like the first story, not even gonna think about it. Absolutely, I'm going for it. But this was, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and this
It was coming.
this more than anything, the reason why I love it more is yeah, the first one, it's too real life. Like
The poison.
the poison it's too real life.
It happened. Yeah, it happened all the time. It
Mm.
really is someone's story, just a name change. That's
Right.
what that one is.
And this is just, man, I hope it happened. Because to see that, to see the earth open and just be like, come home, she jumps in, poof, and then your energies float away as butterflies. That is just the most beautiful thing I could imagine happening. And seeing that, could you imagine viewing that? Being there in that moment and seeing that happen, like the carriage driver, and like, who's gonna believe you for one?
Well, my thought process is it's enduring the storm. So thinking about the carriage going, the storm starts rising during the drive. You know you have to pass that place. And you're just going, I just have to do it. The end of the line is that I have to do this for my family, you know. And so she's going, I just have to endure the storm of this life because this isn't it. That's it. There's something beyond this. And he's already waiting for me. I just have to endure the storm. No, like thunder splitting the sky is getting super dramatic as they're going up. I can do it. I can endure the storm. And then she's offered with that thing of, I know you can, but you don't have to. And it's just like cool because, yeah, everything's going chaotic as she's approaching this terrible place. So now the earth is mimicking how she might be feeling inside.
Oh.
And it acknowledges it and goes, you are absolutely right. You could make it through the storm, but you don't have to. And here, you know what? Here's your chance. And it's his grave. And it was just, yep, because you can't hesitate in moments like that either, though. So I didn't even have to give the ultimatum. I didn't have to bargain through that grief, that bargaining piece. It gave me what I didn't have to verbalize what I wanted. That's how much my love and my energy is projecting. I don't have to verbalize it. I don't have to think about it. It offered it and I'm taking it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those questions of you really don't know what you'll do until it comes. But gosh, yeah, I hope I take it. And she did.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't even, what's going on? I know who that is. I know.
I got you.
And
Here
then
I
the
come.
storm is gone, and two things rise from it.
Yeah.
Because she was willing to go through that without him for the sake of it is what it is.
Yeah.
And another life,
Her
another
duty.
time.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
This is
And
unfortunate,
because
but this is
she
what I
was
need to.
willing to continue, she was rewarded with that.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so, yeah, I do love this. And I do love those lines that they didn't defeat arranged marriage, they didn't overturn society, they transcended it. It is that idea of we are on this playing board and allowing people to make us pick sides and me versus you and this and that, and just taking yourself off the board for love. It takes two, and they did it. They took themselves off the board, and they did it by completely respecting it. That's the thing. It's that they respected it. They
That's
acknowledged
all
it.
about being in
They
the flow.
surrendered their lack of control, and the earth did the impossible.
Yep.
Because they're like, you get it.
Yep.
That's the point, right? Is love here.
Yep.
You get it.
Yeah.
You don't have control. Love is what you have control over. That does not get defeated by anyone else here.
Yeah. And she was surrendering for the love of her family, not so much the love of him, because she's like, okay, well, I do love my family, so I'll surrender this for them. I'll go through this for this lifetime because he is waiting for me, and I will do this. But that is ultimately, and the earth is like, yes, you got it.
And it wasn't that they were inseparable, right? They were easily separated.
Yeah.
You know, it's not this idea of I'm states away and you're states away, so we're fated lovers. No, they were separated by life and death, by customs, by all of this. But the one thing that couldn't be separated was the only thing that mattered, and that was their souls. That's
Yes.
why this story lives on. Because the only thing that is attached to nothing else except something that's like above all of us, right?
Right.
Our life source and it stems from love. So love
Yeah.
coming from the life force is the only thing that can't be controlled down here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the most honest thing about ourselves, if not the only honest thing about ourselves. And this story is, yeah, this is controlled by humans, and that's nothing. These are controlled by vessels that are going to rot away and die in 100 years, and then people aren't going to remember in 200.
Yeah. Facts.
And if they do, it's because the souls transcended beyond. And I love this story. It's my favorite one. It's my favorite story.
I see it. I get it.
So, and this is an important note of this one. In this legend, love transcends time through transformation. When earthly union is denied, the soul finds freedom in another form. I love that these butterflies came up just like just both of them, just and they're just you won here, but now you can't touch us. Like, it's really what it is.
Yeah.
You won there, and congrats. Like, no, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Hope you happiness because nothing matters. We did it. We did it. And now
we're just two beautiful butterflies. Flopping around.
Butterfly. But yeah, I just like that the soul finds freedom.
Right.
That's the one thing that we say, you can cage the soul, you can beat the soul down. You can't kill the soul, though. Those are powers outside of human control to kill the soul.
Right.
And I truly don't believe that any life force, any being, any God, anything would allow its life force to go out anywhere.
Right.
I just don't, And if it did, then Earth wouldn't be here. Like this planet wouldn't be floating in nothingness.
Right.
With bajillions of other planets. It's just not realistic to me. So in the fourth story, this one's really interesting to me because obviously I'm digging into Greek mythology. I truly believe Greek mythology is the most popular mythology.
Yeah.
It's not at all my favorite. Some of the characters, Persephone, absolutely one of my favorites of all time. Norse, Egyptian, lots of other popular mythologies, but Greek is one that you actually learn about in schools. I've never heard this story. I've never heard Atalanta before. So I was like really excited with this story.
Yeah.
Because it's a realm that I know a lot about. So I know a lot of the fluff around that they could possibly be engaged in, but the two itself, it was a brand new story for me. So I really did like it. But something that was interesting, and the reason I think you don't hear it is because it was a quick love.
Yeah.
It was a lesson love, so quick and so blatant, I believe. That respect, that to be seen was huge. She needed to be seen by someone else before she could move forward,
Right.
who was worthy, right? In that tale. He stood up for her and his loyalty shifted. You know what? Respect is a little bit more important than bloodline. Giving people credit where credit is due, that honesty, that skill, regardless of who you are, is more important than than the bloodline and stuff, than obligation to something we didn't get a choice over, is what I think he was taught. Because his uncles were disrespecting her simply because it was a female
Right.
who did something. And no, we're not going on the male female train or whatever. That's always how it is. Because you're not a part of the popular group, whatever the popular group is. He stood up for that, right? And he went and tried to cut down the people that were saying stuff. And he did. He killed them, killed what they were saying, killed their words. And because he did that, he was deemed a monster, right? Who was taken out of the equation by someone who just saw it as vengeance, right? Was simply blinded by that. And I mean, I get it. He killed her 3 brothers. Do I think that that was the most logical way to go? No. But, we're just seeing a short part of the story. But it just was a very fast lesson. Sometimes our soulmates are not eternal soulmates. Sometimes they aren't even deep rooted love soulmates. They are soulmates that shift everything else, right? He died, so he's in a whole different playing field, but he had to be taught that loyalty, that bloodline lesson for something.
Right.
So where did he pop back up, right? Like, was that person someone that was reborn that shared that with the world? Is that someone that's beyond, that's helping others, So he did that for a reason, and then she got to move on in one way or another. But their names endure more of a lesson for us to recognize that not all soulmates are eternal soulmates. But every meeting that we have, every time we stand up for someone, every time we silence someone else's words, there are all of these other people we don't even think about.
Yeah.
Or making moves against us or for us.
Yeah. Something that you could do right now that's going to help somebody else in 5, 10 years from now that you have no clue. And that's a big part that I've been waiting to say this whole time, is like that cause and effect, that what you do today could make such an amazing effect on you or someone else in the either very near future or in the distant, to where,
And we may never know.
yeah, and that's the
That's not
beautiful
what
part.
it's about.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's amazing. Like today, I went to the store. I went in line and I never grab a cart, and I'm grabbing stuff and I'm like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. So I have like 5 or 6 things in my hands and I'm holding it, and I've got the ice melt in one hand and everything else, all the soaps in the other. And some older lady had, not too many things, but quite a few more than I did. And she allowed me to go in front of her, and she's like, I'll be here for a while. And, was kind of cute about it. So then I had won that money last night, so I paid with cash, and then I had another 20 sitting there. So I threw it down on the belt and I said, hey, to the girl at the register, I said, hey, put this on her bill to pay for this, for whatever she needs. So whether it was for the full amount or not, but what was amazing that I liked about the situation, she didn't even see me do it. She was looking somewhere else. So I was able to do that and just leave, because I didn't need her to be like, oh, thank you, whatever. That was me thanking her for doing something nice.
You don't get to be there to see it, which means they don't get to debate it. They don't get to whatever.
Yeah.
It's a genuine, the only person that will see how they react is the middle person. And that middle person saw you not needing recognition.
Right.
And just, you know what? Cool. you know, and to just the feeling though of when someone gives us that act of kindness, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
When they don't need recognition either, or yeah, I wish I could have thanked them and stuff, but that, wow,
But
they were continuing their day, but they consciously made that couple seconds, that couple minute decision in between them having to continue to go or choosing to go to say, hey, I see you. That's all it was that you did for her, really. Like, not bringing that down, but kind of escalating it is all you did was say, I see you. And that is so huge.
yeah, that was my way of thanking her, not like me looking at her being like, "Oh, you need the help or
Yeah,
something."
it's
Like,
not,
no,
I
I
see you need
appreciate
money.
oh, I
I see you're a
appreciate
human
what you
being.
just did.
Mhm.
Like that was very sweet of you. You didn't have to do that. I wasn't in a super hurry. I did want to beat you home, so it was convenient. It saved me a couple minutes.
Right.
Like not a ton of time, but a couple minutes. And then what I loved about it, and I was so thankful, is it allowed me to do something that I enjoy doing. And that's giving to people without having to be like them thanking me. I would much rather just help somebody out. And yeah, it does feel good to get thanked. Wow. And I know I'm moving into something that will be a thing where they're going to be like, "Oh my God, you helped me." I know that's coming. So I really enjoy the people don't know that I'm the one that's
I
doing it, or I do it and they just I don't need that, you
It's
know?
kind of like that boom, 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 like just a lot of really good feeling good. Someone made my day better. I got to thank them
And now what are they going to do
and
for
I get to
somebody
move
else?
forward, right? And it made me feel good to thank them and to not get anything in return or to not ask or whatever it may be. Whether I get something in return or not, that's not it. But they made my day better. And now I just made my own day twice as good because I acknowledged them for doing it. And it feels good to look at someone and to say, like, you made my day better. Thanks. Like the difference between a thank you and a thanks in the sense of you're feeling that you made their day better. It's just, it feels so good. And it gets like you all like nervous. Well, it gets me all nervous. So I'm like, stop it. Quit. So that's usually why I leave because then I'm like, why am I this way?
Yeah, and then you know that when you make someone's day that they're just going to pay it forward somewhere else. That because you gave them that positive energy, they in turn, just to me, in my reality, there's zero way they're not going to be able to spread that to somebody else. You just ignited something inside that person that is now going to cause them to do something, and that is in turn going to cause somebody else to do something. And you just created this new flow of just positive energy. And that's all you have to do, one small thing a day. And it's not money, it's just something positive or positive words towards somebody, speaking words of love towards people one time a day, consciously, sometimes and it's just going to make everything better.
Well, and think about the times I was just thinking about that when you were saying it, that I've sat here and someone's been brought up in a discussion that I haven't known, but I've been like, you know what, I had one interaction with them and this is how it went. And how that interaction really influences how I defend them
Mm.
on that one interaction. Because even when it's a bad interaction, well, I've seen them one time, it wasn't the greatest interaction. I don't know them though, it's one bad interaction, but when it's a good one, you know what? I had no idea who that person was, and this is how they treated me when they didn't know who I was.
Right.
So, this is what I've seen when they don't owe me anything. So, it does come forward. You know what? I had no idea that that person, this event was even going to come up again. But 10 years ago, that person saved my life that week with some act of kindness. So, I get to repay it 10 years later by just mentioning that they're a good person.
Right.
Like that's huge, and then realizing, wow, everything we do truly does matter. But the way people interpret it too matters
Right.
hugely, 100%, and how we interpret. But with all of that today, our lesson was that some bonds transcend time for soulmates. And then we're going to think today this is kind of, I think, end of the day, laying down kind of thought of who feels eternal in our lives. So before we go to sleep tonight, we're going to think who feels eternal in our lives. And then we're going to close our eyes. Our activity is that we are going to close our eyes and imagine reunion without trying to define its form. Okay, so we're not defining what the reunion looks like. We're closing our eyes and imagining what it feels like. So it may not be me and you hugging. Maybe it is. We're not trying to define it. If that's how it pops into our head, let it be. If it's a full-on feeling, though, embrace it. And then think, like, we really have to think of our question before we can do this, of who feels eternal. Maybe we sit there and we think of people just in general, and what color comes to mind? Like, I was just thinking about different people, and immediately different colors started popping up, like on my chest. It felt like there was like lines going out just now. That was cool. But we're going to think about that. And then our thought as we leave today is that some bonds endure because they are never meant to end. If they're not meant to end, it doesn't matter what we do here, they're not ending. If they are meant to end, it doesn't matter what we do here, they're ending.
Facts.
Like, that's it. But who have we allowed to be eternal? Because we've acknowledged the bond that was placed in front of us. We've acknowledged that, yep, bet this is someone that I'm going to continue with, or this is someone I'm going to remember, or I'm going to spread their name, with. So think about that today. And tomorrow we will be back with February 3rd. And instead of it being, that solemn fated lovers, tomorrow we are going to look at 4 different kinds of marriage customs. Tomorrow is all about the marriage and 4 beautiful different ways and traditions that's shown around the world. And I already read those stories too. They're so good. But anyways, that's all that we have for you today. Think about who feels eternal before we start thinking about marriage tomorrow. So thank you guys for joining us for Folklore and
Thanks,
Flourish.
guys. Love you.